I'm not hungry, but I'm eating, and it's important that I'm eating. Let's chat why. So I get this super often from my clients, and that is this fear of if they aren't hungry, they should not be eating, like if they aren't physically hungry. But there are different types of hunger, and they're all equally important to listen to and honor. If you want a relationship with food and body that doesn't feel chaotic or obsessive, it's actually extremely important to honor all of these hungers, different types of hungers. So let's talk about what those are and how to honor them so that you can get to a place where you don't have all that food noise. So that type of hunger that most of you are familiar with is going to be that physical hunger. So the physical hunger is, those cues, those hunger cues that we're familiar with. And they could be subtle hunger cues and they could be not so subtle hunger cues. So if we're talking not so subtle hunger cues, that is like that feeling in your stomach, like you have to eat now. Extreme nausea, migraines, feeling so out of it, like those extreme. And then you have those not so subtle hunger cues that we need to listen to, that are those initial hunger cues saying, hey, I need to eat so I don't get overly hungry. And so that I have energy and all the things, all the good things. And those hunger cues are going to be, just thinking of food. That's a hunger cue. Lack of energy, a dip in energy, your mood being off, brain fog, all those little cues, and they're so different for everyone. And so it's really important to listen to the physical hunger cues, because that is your body sending these signals to you that it needs food in order to function at its optimal level. And it needs that energy to thrive. And that is why it's sending you those signals to feed it. That's super smart. That's something that's really good that we have. Just like those cues to sleep or rest or go pee, right? Those things that we trust a lot more than we trust with our hunger cues due to diet culture. But it's really important to listen to those because we want to give our body enough nutrition and nutrients to be able to thrive. And so listening to that hunger cue is going to allow you to not be deprived and not and for your body to function optimally. And if you're not meeting those, your body's going to start to slow down. It's going to slow down metabolism. It's going to wreak havoc on your hormones. You're just not going to be able to get through the day in the best way. You're totally going to feel it, and your body is going to feel that over time and be impacted in many ways over time. And so we want to make sure we're providing it enough energy. If you don't have those hunger cues, or if you're not familiar with them, most likely that's due to the fact that you haven't been listening to them for a long time. And if you don't listen to your hunger cues for long enough, they're going to shut off because you are not listening to them, so they can stop sending them. And it's different for everyone. Some people may lose those hunger cues really quickly, and some they might be, their body might be more forceful to get that message across. It's going to be different for everyone. So if you are not getting those physical hunger cues, to get them back, you need to start eating consistently and enough. And then those will start being sent to you. Okay, the next hunger that I want to talk about is that sensory or taste hunger. Now, this is something that diet culture says you do not need to listen to that. You should not listen to that. But let me tell you why not listening to the sensory and taste hunger is going to make you way more out of control with food, feel way more guilty around food, make you feel super deprived, make the food noise extremely loud, and actually pull you further away from control with food and freedom with food and intuitive eating and flexibility with food. The people that I know and that I've worked with, and myself included from before and after, when I had started listening to that taste cue or that taste hunger, that sensory hunger, I was not binging on foods anymore. I was not hyper focused on, those off limit foods and off limit desserts. And food wasn't always on my mind. So I was so much more at ease with food, and I just didn't think about food much. And I definitely wasn't finishing a gallon of ice cream after not being able to consume it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks at a time and shaming it. And so if you want to gain control around food, you need to start allowing those foods. And you need to make sure you have that taste hunger, or allow that taste hunger regularly. So what I say is this is the satisfaction factor. And you want to have that satisfaction factor with as many meals and snacks as you can. And so when you're making maybe that nutrient dense lunch that you're craving and you're wanting and going to give you enough calories and the energy, make sure that that is something that is enjoyable, or make sure you're adding something that's going to like fully satisfy you. And an example I like to use, and something I just personally like to do is when I'm having, if I'm having a nutrient dense lunch, a lot of different colors, lots of different veggies and grains, and let's just say I get a grain bowl somewhere. That's going to be enjoyable, but I'm not going to feel totally satisfied until I have something sweet as well. And if I put that sweet off limits, or if my clients put that sweet treat off limits, and say, hey, no, I had the grain bowl, I shouldn't need something else. What's going to happen is you're going to consistently be thinking of that treat. That food noise is going to be so loud. It's going to be very hard to concentrate on other things because your body still wants to be satisfied. And so if you get that practice in, it's going to quiet that food noise. It's also going to not make you feel out of control with treats. And so making sure you're not only satiated, like have enough food, but also satisfied is going to allow you to move on and not think about food until the next time you need to eat or the next time you're hungry. But a lot of people fear this. They think it's overindulgent and they think it's going to make them feel out of control, but it actually does the opposite. And the next hunger I want to talk about, and the last hunger I'm going to talk about today, that hunger is emotional hunger. This gets such a bad reputation. Emotional hunger is shamed so constantly. But the thing is coping with food is bad if you're doing it all of the time. Coping with walking, if you do it all the time and that's your only way of coping, that is also bad. We need lots of coping skills. There's no, we need a variety of coping skills. It's when it overtakes is the only way you cope is with food is when it becomes bad. But emotional eating, let's say through coping as one example of emotional eating, is absolutely something you can do that can really take care of your emotions. So for example, like there's sometimes if I'm not feeling good, I want to get like a colorful, nutrient-dense meal and, really knock out a good workout. And that's going to make me feel better, right? It's something that I'm craving. But then there's times when emotionally I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I don't want that option. I want the second option. And what's really going to feel good is to grab my favorite ice cream or my favorite candy and lay on the couch and let my body rest and watch something on TV that I really have been wanting to watch and let myself do that. And both are good and we shouldn't shame them. They can both be used in harmful ways, right? If we're coping through eating perfectly and through excessive exercise or exercising to reduce anxiety, if you're only doing that, that's going to be bad. If you're only eating candy on the watching a movie, that's going to be bad. Those are both bad if we're only doing those. Also, emotional hunger and emotional eating and eating for emotional reasons is also eating to celebrate and eating to connect with people and eating for joy and eating. I mean, that's what we do as humans. That's such a nice way and such a nice thing for our emotional and mental well-being, right? It would be very upsetting and sad and we would be taking away from our life if we can't celebrate someone's birthday with some celebratory treats or that they made or that they gave for us or that we look forward to, or if we weren't able to sit around a table and, order our favorite appetizers out with our friends because we weren't like physically hungry. So we didn't allow ourselves to enjoy that. It's such a human thing to do, to emotionally used food. And it's just so demonized. I mean, all three of these hungers are demonized and shamed in diet culture and toxic thin culture. But what happens if you really think about it, if you demonize those things, if you shame those hungers, if any of those hungers are not allowed, it's going to take away from your life, and it's going to make you feel more out of control and more deprived. And what happens when you do that is your relationship with food and body just gets more chaotic, more confusing. So I highly recommend you practice honoring all of those hungers and learning to listen to all of those hungers and work with all of those hungers to learn more about them and build them into your relationship with food and see where they get you. And I know saying all of this, for those of you watching who really struggle with honoring even just one of those, just the physical hunger, this could be really hard. And it could be really scary, because if we're so used to not honoring our hunger, we can very much swing to the other side where we are, feeling really out of control with food and overeating and feeling shameful and all the things. We can swing from deprivation to like overeating. But that's actually a necessary thing in order to swing to the middle of normalcy and balance and just where it feels easy. But oftentimes people quit because they swing to this other side and they don't stay there for a little bit to then stay in the middle for a long bit. They just freak out and move in the other direction. And I get it. And that's why I do recommend specialized support, because there's a lot of things to work on in addition to just honoring hunger. There's a lot of body image work. There's a lot of root work. There's a lot of learning about nutrition and the weight science and the history and the triggers for you and where they come from, and a lot of healing. And I don't say that to make this overwhelming. I'm and saying there's like just so much work to be done. I'm saying this because I don't want you watching this video and then trying to do this on your own, seeing that it might be a little too overwhelming or too hard to do on your own, and know that that's not because it's not meant for you. It's just because you might need more support, and you also might need to, you do need to make sure it's integrated into all the rest of the work. It's not simply just honoring all those hungers. It's doing all the other things that come with healing and creating that relationship with food and body that is intuitive and freeing and easy.